Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday morning series. Today is Scott and I alternate months, but he did January and February, so I'm doing March and April. And so my topic today has been based on this question has come up kind of regularly on the on some webinars I've been on, and it's what does real recovery look like? And so I think this is a good topic, and I've dug into this topic, and I'm going to start with the stages of recovery and kind of weave through this. So I've got a lot of, to me, it feels content heavy. So, hang with me, ask questions, and Scott would jump in with some information too. So I started with what's the definition? A working definition of recovery from mental disorders and or compulsive addictive behaviors, a process of change through which individuals improve their health and wellness, live in a self-directed life, and strive to reach their full potential, which all sounds lovely. And then as a person in active addiction, I'm like, that was unattainable, but it's a process. So that's the next part of this is recovery is a process typically divided into 5 stages, and we're going to break these down. The first is pre-contemplation, the second is contemplation, the third is preparation, the fourth is action, and the fifth is maintenance. So what does pre-contemplation mean, and what does this look like? So people who are in this stage of addiction recovery aren't yet ready for addiction treatment or a program. This phase is characterized by defensiveness and endless justification of their behavior. If you're a partner, you've seen this, you've experienced this firsthand. There's a clear lack of insight into the negative impact of their addictive behaviors and a strong focus on positive effects they experience, justification for why they need to continue to act out. You can, again, think of 1,000 examples of this. Someone might remain in this stage due to lack of information about addictive behaviors. Another reason we regularly see people get stuck in pre-contemplation stage is disappointment with multiple failed attempts at recovery or treatment options. Most individuals in pre-contemplation feel that recovery simply isn't possible for them. The truth is that anyone can recover from any stage, and I'm throwing that in there because I we see thousands of people, we both know lots and lots of people who do choose it. So that's the pre-contemplation stage. It feels really stuck and lots of defensiveness. Okay, so then the next stage, contemplation stage of recovery. This phase is characterized by contemplative readiness. This means the person is ready to bring about change in the future, but not immediately. Unlike the previous stage, they're aware of the pros of seeking recovery. However, they are still acutely aware of the benefits they perceive from their maladaptive coping mechanisms, otherwise known as compulsive problematic behaviors. This can be a stage of opportunity. By avoiding blame, judgment, and accusations, it's possible to guide them into the next stage. And I say that, and I kind of caveat that too, of like, nothing anyone else does or doesn't do is going to make an addict get into recovery. But I do find that, when partners are, holding healthy boundaries or parents or whatever, then there starts to be more of, more reasons to get to keep moving through the stages. Okay, the next stage is preparation stage. When it comes to the preparation stage, the individual is building a sense of urgency regarding their desire for sobriety recovery. They've usually made steps towards taking action, such as intending to join a gym or other healthy behaviors, seeing a counselor, or attempting to quit addiction by themselves without engaging in recovery resources, such as group meetings like 12-step or a higher level of help. It's normal for people in this phase to go for a period of time without acting out, but it's also perfectly usual to see these people jump back into contemplation or pre-contemplation in case triggers or difficult emotions arise. So they don't have enough, foundation yet, so they will cycle back through the other stages. Okay, so the action stage. During the action stage, the person has made a significant change in their life. or changes in their life and is committed to change. This stage of change is characterized by prolonged periods of abstinence and the inclination to turn to professionals for help before or after relapse, ideally before. It won't just be a case of halting the destructive behaviors. Change will be apparent in multiple aspects of their lifestyle. Self-care and self-understanding are both present in this treatment stage, but support resources, 12-step counseling, is required to keep on the right path. So the maintenance stage of addiction recovery. During the maintenance stage, the individual is working hard to prevent addiction recovery relapse. They're also keeping up the lifestyle changes they've made, like getting regular exercise, recreational activities, staying sober, paying attention to sleep hygiene, and attending support groups. They don't feel the urge to relapse as frequently as people in the action stage, so their confidence grows and they truly believe in their ability to maintain sobriety long term, one day at a time. This stage can last from 6 months to 5 years, depending on the severity of the addiction and the individual's genetics and experience. It takes a small minority of people 6 months of abstinence to reach this point where they don't go back to their addictive behaviors. But for most people, a commitment of 2 to 5 years is necessary to truly break the habit and solidify change. So that's the stages. So ongoing, when we are living in recovery, the recovery program is interwoven into areas of our lives, into all areas of our lives. We are taking a personal inventory. We are making the necessary amends, course corrections as needed. We recognize our vulnerabilities and continue to do the work to change and grow. We don't arrive at being cured. And vulnerabilities, like the term triggers gets thrown out a lot, vulnerabilities, triggers, whatever, and we continue to do the work. Okay, so a few more things. Why is gratitude so important in recovery? Because it reduces stress and anxiety. Gratitude has been shown to reduce stress and anxiety, two factors that contribute to acting out an addiction. When individuals practice gratitude, it helps them manage their stress levels, making it easier to cope with the challenges of recovery. I included this because if we are living in recovery, we will show up and you will know that we are showing gratitude. It's that to me is a key thing that others will see, as part of, are we really in recovery? And then, so I found this and I thought this was kind of funny and true. What are the 5 rules of recovery? Change your life. Recovery involves creating a new life where it is easier to not act out. 2, be completely honest. 3, ask for help. 4, practice self-care. And 5, don't bend the rules. And I thought that was helpful because we can go, well, that rule doesn't really apply to me, or I'm going to share the next piece because this is really meaningful for me too. But I'm going to share the promises out of the 12 steps, and because if we do the steps, and there's 12 of them, and if we work the steps and we're well, if here's the promises, if we are painstaking about this phase of our if we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. Okay? There's 12 steps. Before we're halfway through, we're going to start experiencing these. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see that our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God or our higher power is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, but they will always materialize if we work for them. So, and I shared all of this because if you are looking at what real recovery looks like, you know, if you are seeing the promises of recovery coming through in people, this stuff is visible. Like you will see, that our whole outlook upon life will change. We will not be telling you the past doesn't matter, because we will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. We will have gratitude. All of these things will start to show up in our lives. And that's what real recovery to me looks like. So that's my reading of the day. Scott, thoughts on any of those aspects? We've got some questions too, but thoughts?
Oh, yeah, I got lots of thoughts.
Good.
First of all, it is possible to be in multiple stages of recovery at once.
And slipping back and forth, I think, kind of
Right.
yeah.
Pre-contemplation, contemplation, and preparation. I was all over the place. And even into change. I mean, I jokingly say I quit using porn 1,000 times.
Yeah.
I stayed quit once.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was really good at quitting, not very good at staying quit. And that was all pre-contemplation, a lot of denial, um, contemplation, like putting it off. Well, I'll just look at it, today. And then preparation, intending to quit. Well, I'll go to a meeting or I'll get it there, um, and even quitting, but staying quit for a week or two, or sometimes just a few hours, but never getting there. The change stage, as you said, we start getting help with our sobriety. Um, Start working the steps. We start talking to a therapist. That's when life starts to change. Is when we start doing the work. And I love that you close that with the promises. Um, in the AA Big Book, that passage appears after step 9. Steps 10, 11, and 12 are kind of like maintenance steps. So after we've done step 9, we really should see all of those to a certain extent. And I will simply say, in my life, the promises have come true. And I know Tami feels the same way about her life. Um, what does real recovery look like? I always think about step 12. Step 12 is having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. For me, the spiritual awakening was I can make it through the day without wanting to shoot you or have sex with you. I mean, that was my spiritual awakening.
Alternatives.
I didn't have the burning bush spiritual awakening, but I did have a spiritual change within myself. I started realizing other people are people with thoughts and feelings and emotions, and they matter. I'm not the center of the universe. I'm the center of my universe, but I'm not the center of the universe. But anyway, step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry these messages to other addicts. So we tried to help people and to practice these principles in all our affairs. And that last bit is the big bit. That's what recovery looks like. I'm practicing the principles of the 12 steps, which are recognizing I have a problem, um, accepting help with my problem, realizing that the mess my life has become is not your fault, it's mine. Working on my character defects and making things right with the world. You know, you know, making amends to people, cleaning up my side of the street. And then 10, 11, and 12 are keeping my side of the street clean. That's what real recovery looks like is I have cleaned up my mess and I'm keeping it clean. Um, you can be sober and not in recovery. Um, we call that a dry drunk. Tami, what is a dry drunk, Tami? Because we've seen.
So yeah, and I have and this is a term that comes out of AA. So somebody who stops drinking and can be a nasty, mean SOB, but they're sober, but what a horrible way to live. And I always think about this with any form of addiction, the problematic behaviors, and there's often more than one, but not doing that and not living in recovery is like the worst place to be, because at least like when we're talking about the other stages, it's like, well, I still see the benefit of my acting out, so I'm going to keep doing some of that stuff, but now you're going like, I'm not doing that and I don't have any of the tools to use. I'm not really living in recovery. And those are not nice people usually. They're really miserable. Nobody wants to
Yeah.
be around them.
Yeah. I mean, addictions are not about, sex addiction is not about sex. I didn't act out sexually because I was horny. Um, I didn't get drunk because I was thirsty. Um, Addictions are about emotional escape. They're my coping mechanism. So without my coping mechanism, suddenly I'm having to feel everything. And unless I do the work of recovery, which involves developing healthy coping mechanisms, healthy connections, healthy ways of dealing with stress and anxiety, I'm just going to turn into a jerk. Um, a lot of people in early recovery, they actually get less pleasant than they were in their addiction because their addiction was their medicine. It was how they self-soothed. It was how they didn't scream at their partner and the kids and their boss. Suddenly, without that medicine, they're feeling everything and they have no idea how to deal with it. That's what recovery is about. The first part of recovery, yes, stop the behavior. Second part of recovery is change your life. Addiction lives up here. You know, some people call it a disease of perception. I perceive the world a certain way. For me, the world was out to get me. So I was always on the defense. I was always like ready to go. Part of recovery is realizing, what, people are not plotting against me. It's like I can relax and just be nice to people. That's okay. Um, that's a huge part of recovery. Um, you know, um, do you have thoughts on that, Tammy? Because there's one more thing I want to bring up.
And keep going.
Okay, gratitude. I talk about gratitude all the time. It is my number one long-term recovery tool. Every morning I do a gratitude list. I do it before I get out of bed. And I can tell you in early recovery, I was not ever going to do this gratitude thing. People were like, oh, you get on your knees, you pray to God, you do a gratitude. It's like, first of all, I don't do the God thing. Second of all that airy fairy, Stuart Smalley, I'm good and gosh darn it, people like, no, I'm not doing that. Then I'm a science guy. I'm a logic guy. And I read academic journals for fun. I'm that guy. Okay. Because I find them interesting. um, and I came across a study by this woman who no one had heard of at the time. Her name was Brene Brown. Her name still is Brene Brown. And everybody knows who she is now. But this was research that she did when she was a college professor, and it was published or perish. And she had decided to research why some people seem to be happy all the time and some people seem to be negative, cranky all the time. She wanted to know why. So she and her grad students got together and they came up with like 356 questions, I think, about everything that might influence someone's happiness. And then they interviewed over 10,000 people from all walks of life, all ages, all races, creeds, colors, whatever. I mean, this was a very well conducted study. And they compiled all the information. And at the end of the day, they found one difference between happy people and unhappy people. Happy people are grateful for what they have. That's it. Happy people are grateful for what they have. It doesn't matter what they have. It doesn't matter what they don't have. They're grateful for what they have and they're happy. Now we got a whole bunch of research on gratitude after that because, therapists have been in business for, a couple of centuries now. And it was like, oh, that's the key to happiness, just some gratitude. So people started researching gratitude. Grateful people, they live longer, they make more money, they have better relationships, they recover faster from the common cold, they recover faster from serious illnesses, and they also are much more likely to get sober and stay sober from an addiction. This is all research-based stuff. If you do a gratitude list every day, you're going to be happier and you're going to have better sobriety. So I do a gratitude list every day. I do it every morning before I get out of bed. The cat wakes me up at dawn. He's sound asleep now, but he was wide awake at dawn. Um, and I pet him and do my gratitude list, and then I go feed him he goes back to sleep and I get up and start working. Um, but the first item I do 10 items. The first item on my gratitude list is the same every single day. I'm grateful to be sober and in recovery because I am. That reminds me, number one, I am an addict. I have a problem and I need to work on it every day. I don't care how many years I've been sober. I have to work on my addiction every day. Tammy's nodding like you can only see one of us.
Like a
Trust me,
bobblehead.
Tammy's on the other screen going up and down.
Uh-huh.
So that's the first time on my gratitude list. My next 9 items, my rule is they have to be different today than they were yesterday, because I don't want this to be an exercise in memorization. I want to actually think about, what am I grateful for today? I mean, right now I'm grateful that the wind has mostly stopped blowing because for 2 days I have been a big ball of allergy because the wind's been blowing here, just dust. I live in the desert. Um, but there's other things I'm grateful for. And then my third rule, one of the things on my list has to be about me as a person, because most of us addicts are very shame-based. We think not only are we a piece of shit, we're the world's biggest piece of shit, you know? So I have to remind myself that I'm not as terrible as my brain tells me I am sometimes. So I make myself do that. I don't make myself do that every morning, but I do that every morning, and it makes my life better. It starts my day off right. Um, and it
Can you
also,
share one of those? And like, I'm putting you on the spot, but like, is it about a quality about yourself, or
oh,
what could be
it,
something on your list about that's positive about you that you're grateful
you know,
for?
usually it's a quality about myself. I mean, you know, I'm a good communicator. I do
Okay.
have a good sense of humor.
Hmm.
You know, I'm a good pet dad. You
You
know,
are.
I'm honest these days.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, I'm grateful that I'm honest. I don't tell lies anymore.
Yeah.
Big
Thank
things.
you. And I didn't mean to put you on
Yeah.
the spot, but I was like, it can be
No,
easy. Like,
that's
I mean, it could be something that wouldn't be as uh, personal, like, I mean, it could be I'm a good provider or whatever, but on the
yeah,
other,
and
but
yeah, it can be stuff like that, but it's just something about me to remind myself, you know, I'm not the worst person on earth.
yeah,
I do have something to offer to the world.
yeah,
Um, and that's important for me because, you know, it was my shame that kept me in denial, kept me in secrets, kept me lying. You know, I can't tell you the truth about me because you won't like me then. So I learned to lie and keep secrets by the time I was 5, 6 years old. And most addicts go like, yep. Um, so reminding ourselves, it's like doing an affirmation. Like, you know, I'm a good, you know, gosh darn it, people like me. Um, so yeah. Um,
So I want to tag on because you talk about research. So I just saw some research this last weekend about, talking about gratitude, that there was a massive spike in anxiety between 2010 and 2012, which was the internet, like social media, and so when we learned to compare ourselves negatively towards everybody else's
the
posts.
the Facebook effect.
Yeah, it really was. And actually the topic was on gratitude. It's like, stopping the I need to be like them and being grateful for what, and like you said, it doesn't matter what I have or what I don't have,
Right.
if I can be grateful for where I'm at, I will be happier, healthier, all of those things. The good things come to me, because always striving for external, which is what we did as addicts, we're looking for external things to make us feel okay, and the stuff is just stuff, and so if I'm comparing, what's in my driveway to somebody else's or whatever, like it's
Right.
empty, it's hollow, and it will never give us, the satisfaction that gratitude does. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you're talking about the difference between external esteem and self-esteem. You know, this external validation, it does nothing for us inside. Part of recovery is we develop self-esteem. You know, we stop worrying about cash and prizes and start worrying about, you know, am I a good person? Can I look myself in the mirror today? Do I feel comfortable in my own skin today? Can my partner get mad at me and I don't freak out and get defensive? Can I just hear what my partner is saying and go, okay, tell me more. How can we resolve this?
Mhm.
Instead of saying, well, yeah, but, and then I start mansplaining.
Yeah.
You know?
Or how long are we going to keep talking about this stuff? That's in the past,
Right.
which is why I think, when the promise is we will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. Now, we aren't
Yeah.
wallowing in all of that, but that's where I was. And so if
Right.
I don't have an honest awareness of that's where I was and how I don't want to go back there, I will, if I don't remember that, I will probably
Right.
repeat that. So yeah, I'm with you. I have a daily reprieve. We both have nice chips, and I have a daily reprieve. It's based on what I'm doing today,
Mhm.
to maintain my, serenity path.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got some questions. Anything else before we move on?
No, no, this
Okay,
is a great topic. Um,
I'm glad you liked it,
because sobriety and recovery are related, but they are
but
not the
not the
same
same.
thing.
Well, I say all the time to people, abstinence is just not doing the things that we weren't supposed to do. And I always say, and we don't get, a gold star for that. Now we can get a chip at a meeting, for just not
Yeah.
acting out. Sobriety is I'm starting to put these pieces together. I'm starting to get a clue, but real recovery takes 2 to 5 years based on what I'm doing. It isn't just because I'm sitting there, or even as much as, I love meetings, like just going and warming a seat at the meeting isn't going to cut it. When I'm in my 12-step meetings, one of my guys that's in the meetings talks about how important the meetings are, and they are, but it's the people there that helped me learn how to work the steps. And he kind of glosses over, and I'm always going like, yep, it's working the steps. I'm just a huge proponent of that. And we've talked before about steps 4 through 9 are the housekeeping steps. So when and Scott was talking about, the promises are after, step 9, but, if we're doing the work, I mean, like that stuff started showing up for me way before it took a while to do step 9 because like people came to me, and that's what my sponsor advised is like, and they did. I was in a bookstore, so I mean, it was just, and so I let that process flow. But like I was already like, so much was shifting for me, just by doing this work. And I always say, if I could just wave a magic wand and you could see how good recovery is, everyone would be leaping over fences to get there. And people don't. They get stuck in that, in the early stages of going like, no, 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 I'm still getting the benefit from this. No, 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 I'm hanging on to this. And so clearly we're big proponents. Recovery is worth the effort. We live good lives, and we are esteemable people. We're not in prison, so we're not dead, so and we're not murdering people for being annoying. Okay. This is a two-parter. Okay.
Yeah.
Betrayed here, married to a PA for 30 years. Upon D-Day number 3, a little over a year ago, I initiated an in-house separation. He is making some efforts to work on himself, but admits he is still on the emotional level of an adolescent boy. I want to reside at separate residence with a plan. Hi, Tami. Thank you. Once our youngest leaves for college this fall, it's too painful to be his emotional training wheels. Boy, that's a vivid image, isn't it, of emotional training wheels? And living apart for a year will allow me to work on myself and gain some perspective. Here is the work he's been doing, seeing non-PASA therapist 8 months for his avoidant attachment and his recent ADHD diagnosis. He says he's been porn-free since D-Day last year, and he's doing recovery yoga and journaling daily. He initiated conversations about this with me for only a few times. Here's the work I was hoping he would do, see a PASA trained therapist and or 10, 12-step or support groups. I think he needs to address his addiction with experts in the PASA field, or at least join support groups. I make no demands on him, but have suggested PASA specific support, and he says he isn't ready. Is he still being avoidant by not tackling his PASA issues head on? How much time has to pass before seeking PASA support no longer making sense? I can't help feeling he's trying to run out the clock. I've let go of hoping for a particular outcome, but it would be nice to know if I'm being realistic. Thanks for your insights. So that was a lot. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I have a pretty good idea of what's going on. Scott, thoughts? I know you were kind of going,
He is doing everything but working on the problem.
yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
oh, come on. He has got to get a CSAT, certified sex addiction therapist. I mean, working on those secondary issues is fine, but it's not addressing the problem. Um, the problem starts with he's an addict and he
Yeah,
needs to get sober. And then those other things that he's doing will actually start to take root. Um,
yeah,
he's putting the cart before the horse, to use that old saying. Um, it sounds like he's a porn addict. We have an online porn addiction work group starting next Thursday at 4 p.m. Get his ass into my group. Pardon my language. Um, it's a very sort of low stress thing that gets guys started. Please, please, please set a boundary with him.
I was just going to say, you're going to elaborate
I,
on
you
what,
know,
how would you state
I
that?
need you to take this group for me to stay in this relationship. I mean,
Yeah.
because God, I mean, he's working on his avoidant attachment. He's working on his
He's working on
ADHD.
his avoidant
Okay,
attachment by doing yoga and journaling or whatever, it's like,
yeah,
I'm not,
okay, that's all nice. I mean, there's nothing
no,
wrong with that work,
it's
but
it's avoidant in that, I mean,
yeah,
he's not doing anything with other people, I mean, so,
yes,
and he's avoiding, he's working with a non, so he's got
yeah,
cancer and he's a cancer specialist and he's going to see, the orthodontist, it's like,
yeah,
he's not doing he's not going to get the help that he needs for what he's got. And if he's got an avoidant, personality, and this is all isolated, he's doing stuff, you know, sure, yoga's all fine, but like you said, 12 step, the work group, our drop in
yeah,
groups. No, I don't know a single addict who has ever changed, and done a good job, like not been a dry
yeah,
drunk, that is doing it on their own and just by doing, fritzy
yeah,
things, And I don't get me wrong, I love journaling and, I don't do yoga, I don't like that, but I think it's really important for those that like it, But I do appreciate that you have a plan, and I hear also that you are going, I'm holding out hope for these things, but no addict changes until the pain of change is less than the pain of staying the same. Right now, he's
yeah,
going like, yeah, I'm doing my thing. So
yeah,
I'm with Scott, healthy boundaries for you. If you
yeah,
are not in the group that started yesterday with Debbie McCrae, we can still get you into that work group.
yeah,
She is the queen of healthy boundaries. And then boundaries are not control, they're not punishment. They are about, this is what I'm, looking for, but it's also the internal boundaries.
yeah,
And I think that's a piece that everyone, kind of, well, I didn't even know, there was such a term until, I was listening to her and I was like, well, that makes so much sense. And so I'm inviting you, if you missed starting that group, it's
yeah.
not too late. Email, either one of us will help you, um, get in
Yeah.
that.
And our emails, by the way, are our first name at seekingintegrity.com. So
And
Scott,
I'm a four-letter
or
word,
Tammy. Tammy,
TAMI. So
TMI.
yeah.
Mine has two T's. And Tammy did pop into the chat feature the link for the porn addiction work group. Um,
Yes. Yeah. And well, and sex addiction. I was talking to somebody else that they skipped over the foundational sex addiction and porn
mhm.
addiction, and they went to, the high, we've got other courses in there, like, attachment wounds, inner child, healthy intimacy, all of those. They skipped over this, so they aren't really in any kind of sobriety and they're not doing well. And I was like, yeah, like this is like school. You start, at the
Yeah,
foundation and you build on that. So, but yeah, he's kind of skipping. I'm going to do some nice things, but ultimately they
right.
will not serve him for getting that foundation of, for change. So, yeah, maybe in the pre-contemplation at best
Yeah,
stage. Okay. How can you not regret the past when you have hurt someone so much? Oh, this is a great question. My wife of 22 years found out 4 months ago about porn addiction. She has betrayal trauma. She is devastated. How can I not regret what I've taken from her? So, first of all, you're 4 months. So, like, you're in the very early stages of this, and your wife of 22 years, of course she's devastated. Her getting support, Scott, we'll talk in a minute about the regret, but I want support for her. Again, we've got a betrayed partner work group, empowered women's retreat, we've got all kinds of support for her. But of course, you've known for 22 years you were doing these things and she didn't. So, but let's talk about his question.
Yeah. First of all, if you've not taken my porn addiction work group, please do.
There you go.
Starts next
Thank you.
Thursday. I feel
Yeah.
like we're plugging our stuff
Yeah.
here, but I mean,
They're
it's
great
apropos here.
resources. This
Yeah.
this is not marketing. This is like, you need resources and we've got them, and we're going to point you towards the ones
Yeah.
that are helpful. So yeah.
Yeah. How can you not regret the past? For me, look, I did some things that I wish I hadn't done.
We
And
all did. We
yeah,
all did.
on the one hand, I regret them, but on the other hand, I'm grateful for them, because if I had not crashed and burned the way I did, um, I would never have gotten in recovery. I would never have become the person that I am today. And I actually like the person that I am today. So, you know, that's always the one promise that's kind of hard to wrap your head around. Yeah, I wish I hadn't done some things, but I also don't regret them, because they've made me who I am. And who I am is a person who has done those things and can actually help other people who've done those things, or stop them before they do them. Um, we turn our bad, we make lemonade out of the lemons, basically. Um, you're always going to wish you had not hurt your wife. But here's the thing about being in recovery, especially when couples are both in recovery. You know, like the betrayed partner is working on themselves, the addict is working on himself. Then we do the relationship work, and suddenly the relationship can get stronger than it ever was. And that's something that a lot of couples tell us. They're like, we're actually closer than we've ever been. Mostly it's because the addict is no longer hiding and keeping secrets. So now the relationship can be what it should have been all along. Um, and both parties will say, I'm kind of glad we went through all the crap, because we've come out the other side happier, stronger, healthier, more in love than we've ever been. This is possible. You're 4 months in, it's very hard to wrap your head around that fact.
But you do the work in it. I mean, like, I really appreciate you here. I really appreciate your asking. And like Scott, I too, I regret that my behaviors hurt people, and I needed to do every single thing. Like, it took exactly what it took for me to get to the point where I'm at. So, you would have, you could have stopped, you know, 3 years ago if the circumstances were, and you didn't. So now something happened, she had discovery, whatever, and so here's where you are. She's really hurt. You are 4 months in. I'm telling you, take his porn addiction work group, do the work. This is lovely, and this is not accountability. This is not, the support from other people's and peer and shame reduction and all of those things. 12 step, you're 4 months in. If you've been doing 90 meetings in 90 days, great. You can keep doing them. If you haven't yet, guess what? I'm going to suggest 90 meetings in 90 days. We have a whole list of, there's PA, PAA, SPAA, along with the other S groups. Scott and I refer to this one all the time, on 2/7/24, we did a webinar on navigating the 12 steps in this arena, because it's different than, alcohol, it's AA, but for this, it's a little different. And Scott and I, kind of unpack that. The more work you do, and the less you are like, and I'm going to say a word, and like, please don't get hurt feelings with this, but you can't wallow in that shame. You will just go relapse, because you'll throw in the towel and go, oh, I'm so terrible. Like Scott was talking about being, the biggest piece of shit, well, like, that's where shame takes us. And guess what? Then the focus is still on us, because it's all about me and I'm so horrible. No, my behaviors have hurt me. My behaviors have hurt other people. And I'm going to do the work so I can show up differently today. And tomorrow I'm going to do the same thing. We on a daily basis, we just have to deal with today. So we don't regret the past. And right now you're in the, I got to deal with the past. 4 step will really help, with that. Start working with your sponsor, start working with your qualified therapist, to make some traction with that. But yeah, Scott's, like lots of qualified therapists recommend our online work groups, because they're supplemental to what your therapist is doing with you. And you'll glean information that you can take, and you'll make progress in there isn't a magic, cure, but you will make more progress. And the faster you start feeling some freedom from the weight of the shame and things, the more invested you will be in recovery. It just works that way. Thoughts? Anything else?
Yeah, I do want to just say I'm very happy that you're feeling bad about hurting her. That's a good sign.
This is true. Yeah. Yeah.
It means that you actually are willing to make changes because you don't want to hurt her anymore. And
Yes. You're,
I just want to make sure
you
you
know,
understand.
and
That's
I
a really
appreciate
good
that
sign.
clarification. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you, yeah, you being dismissive of, like, oh, or whatever. Yeah. But it's a challenge because the more you
Yeah.
fall into the shame, the more likely you are, so not getting stuck is key to all of this. Okay. The next one. Betrayed partner here, 7 months since discoveries and trickle truths began, separated since last year, not in good recovery and merely checking some boxes. He asked me what he needs to do, and when I tell him, he does not do it. For instance, I need full transparency and he should check in with me every day and tell me briefly what he's been doing. He's how he's feeling, thinking, struggles, wins, etc. But he never makes it past one day, and then several days later I have to remind him to get anything. What to do?
I'm going to plug our work groups again. If you're not in Debbie McCrae's Boundaries work group that started yesterday, we can get you in it. This is all about how do you set healthy boundaries. And healthy boundaries, Tami mentioned this earlier. If I set a boundary, it's not about controlling you, it's about protecting me. Healthy boundaries are not about controlling other people's behavior. It's about how I will respond if and when they do or don't do certain things. So a healthy boundary would be, I need you to initiate a check-in every day. If you don't, I'm going to ask you to move out of the house. Or if you do, then I might be able to trust you. I need this because you're searching for safety in your relationship. So your boundaries are all going to be about how can I feel safe in this relationship? And you don't want to shut him out, but you do want to let him in safely. You know, you're clearly not wanting to build a wall with him, but you need to feel safe in your relationship. And this is all about having boundaries and holding boundaries. And until you have and hold boundaries, he may not change. And even if you do have and hold boundaries, he may or may not change. Um, Other people, addicts, we get to recovery. Tami said it earlier, we get to recovery when the pain of recovery is less than the pain of
When the
staying in
Yeah,
disease.
yeah, when the pain of change is less than the pain of staying the same,
Yeah.
then we'll change. But otherwise, we
And
won't. And he's
yeah,
yeah, that's what I'm reading too. It's like he's wishy-washy, kind of doing some stuff.
yeah.
I
He's
so I
stringing you along.
Yeah,
You said checking some boxes,
yeah,
checking some boxes, not all the
yeah.
boxes. You need him to check all the boxes and mean it. And that's what your boundaries are going to be about as you move forward. If you want me to stay with you, here's what I need to see.
Well,
Um,
and I put and I'll take it one further because I put the link for our residential treatment, and it could be, husband, I like, it seems like you have not had enough support yet in order to make the changes necessary to really have this gain some traction. So Seeking Integrity offers a wonderful, life-changing residential treatment program, that will help him get the traction, that he needs. And there's support for you as a partner as well. We have a family specialist that would be working with you. Like, because this can keep going, for a long time. So yeah, I mean, that happens a lot where we have guys in treatment, and somebody else say, well, and one of our staff will go, why are you here now? Well, I want to be a better person, whatever. No, there's a situation and there's a reason why now instead of 3 years ago, I'm coming in. So
yeah,
that, because staying separated and like, I mean, again, that can play out for a long time, and it just feels like, you're stuck in the mire. So, Okay, here's another good question. Love the gratitude list. So if your number one item is that you're grateful to be sober and in recovery every day, basically the rest of your life. So aren't you saying that there is no cure for you unless you're in recovery every day? Were you born that way?
Great question. So, first of all, I will be in recovery every day for the rest of my life. It would be lovely if there was a cure for addiction. What there is a daily reprieve. We think about addiction the way we think about things like heart disease and diabetes. Um, when you have heart disease or diabetes, you change your diet, maybe you take some prescribed medication, and you do these things every day for the rest of your life. You change your lifestyle, and those things don't rule your life anymore, but you still have to deal with them a little bit every day to stay well. Addiction is the same way. I mean, this crazy little addict lives in my brain, and his voice isn't as loud as it used to be, but he's still in there. Um, you know, raising hell whenever he gets a chance, and telling me you can do this. No one will know. It's really go away. Um, so yeah, I'm going to be an addict till the day I die. Was I born that way? I think addicts are created, not born. Um, Research shows us that there are some genetic markers which predispose us toward addiction, but that same research also says nurture will trump nature every time. In other words, trauma will trump good genetics, or a good upbringing will trump bad genetics. Um, so are addicts born? Not typically. Addicts are created from trauma, neglect, abuse, that turns into shame. That Dr. Rob always describes addiction as an intimacy disorder, meaning we're afraid of other people, basically. I'm afraid you will reject me, so I start lying and keeping secrets. And when I'm feeling bad, instead of going to you, I learned in my house, don't go to mom, don't go to dad. I'm not going to get what I need. So I learned to self-soothe. And that involved alcohol, drugs, masturbation, pornography, fantasy, all that stuff. Um, Addicts are created. We're not born, but once we're addicts, we're addicts. We just don't have to be active addicts.
I say the same thing. We're either in active addiction or in active recovery, and there really is no in between. Like,
Right.
because if there's no just like, well, I'm just skating along. And I'm with you. Like, I think because we have siblings that aren't addicts. So it's one of those things where you go, yes, there's a predisposition for it, and something happens usually before age 10. Scott just mentioned the environment.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
so stuff happens and we find a way to use addiction, compulsive behaviors as a maladaptive coping mechanism, and it works really good until it doesn't.
Yeah.
But my husband and daughter have not known me in active addiction, and one day I was saying something, who knows what, and they looked at me and they both had a kind of and they were like, you think differently, and I was like, yes, I do. And as an addict, see, he's laughing, we get it,
Yeah,
we get that
it's
our
so
brains
true.
think different, and we have to constantly be kind of and early in recovery they say first thought wrong, and I'm not living that anymore. I've
Right.
learned, but there are still things I will check in because I'm going like, and I usually know the answer. If I'm thinking, is this the right way to go, then it's probably not, but I want somebody to verify it.
Yeah.
But we think differently, and that's why we keep saying you need accountability with people like you who are on this path, and betrayed partners need people like that, because you don't think like us. You can't partners want to understand why and how, and like, you won't, because you would never do this stuff, so you can't understand. And we get it. We can, the insanity stuff, and we're sitting there going, yep, that's what we did. And we're not shaming each other about, oh my gosh, I can't believe you did that. It's like, no, there's acceptance among others, shame reduction, and healing if we're willing, like we promised to said, if we're willing to do the work. Okay, I've gotten to my bottom line and asked for a divorce. After this conversation happened, and how often do we see this? He has now wanted to propose a plan for recovery. I am not comfortable waiting and seeing, as I have done this before. How do I express to him the divorce process is continuing, and I wish him the best. Not sure what the future holds, but I've waited 4.5 years for him to get in good recovery. I don't want to waste any more time. I think that's a great way of doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Look, I mean, here's the deal. The divorce process takes forever. So, before you get a divorce, you may see really good recovery from him and the relationship may start to heal. But you've set your boundary. It's up to you to hold it. And I never tell people whether they should stay or go. It's an individual choice. It sounds like you're pretty solidly like, no, I'm ready to move on. So yeah, I mean, Tami, thoughts there? I mean,
I just put the link. We did a 4-part webinar
yeah.
series on should I stay or should I go? Those are questions to ask yourself. Sounds like you've already made the decision. But there, the last two I want to point you to is the third one was Deborah Doak did one on mediation, and that was, I think it's just good information to have. How to navigate this. She works within this arena, so And then the fourth one was our COO is also an attorney, and he came on and shared from the legal standpoint. So I think it's useful to know, just have the lay of the land, so to speak, as you're approaching this. So, and it's very common, like I just said, no addict changes until the pain of change is less than the pain of staying the same. And all of a sudden you're going, a divorce, and he's, no, wait, I'm just kidding. I'm going to do the recovery work. I mean, that can happen. And regardless of, I mean, you can pursue divorce, and some people, have been served divorce papers and they do the work and they stay. No judgment, whatever is true for you. But I think that webinar series will be helpful for you to just, have an idea of what you're doing. But honestly, I was like, if you tell them, the divorce process is continuing. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I've waited 4.5 years and I don't want to waste any more time. Wish you the best, and you can say that without, any rancor. He had 4.5 years, so he didn't choose until now. Is there ever a point where all the therapy and all the groups you have attended, the healing help retreats attended, and all the drop-ins make a change in who you are, that you don't have to do that anymore, a cure? Because I don't believe that we were born with these addictions. I don't ever
Yes,
believe I was
yes and no.
cured. Yes, yeah.
Yes and no. Can you change who you are?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I am a very different person. Tami is too. And neither of us has to do those behaviors anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But we're in active recovery because I can stay on the straight and narrow road for 20 plus years, which I have, and Tami for even longer. The ditch is still 3 feet away.
Mm-hmm.
One bad move and I'm crashing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's how I have to look at my addiction. Because my first couple of years, I'd say I got this, and then 3 days later, I didn't got it. I was back in the ditch.
Yeah.
And I know now for me, uh, I'm one bad decision away, always, and I always will be.
Yeah, and it's not out of fear. Neither of us,
No,
I
no,
know, Scott, well, we're not fearful of that. We're just realistic. I know
yeah,
that is there, and we both know people who have lots of years of
yeah,
not acting out, and I'll say that because they stopped doing the recovery work.
yeah,
They weren't paying attention, on a daily. Now, do I go to 12-step meeting every day? No, I don't need to do that like I
right,
did early, but I still pay attention. Like Scott, I have my routine. I do the things I need to do to make sure that I'm taking care of myself on a daily basis, because what I have is so good. Why would I not want to do? Yeah, I said addiction is the only thing where I did all these things and it worked really good, so I stopped doing them. And then I'm wondering why bad things happened. So there's no cure, and the American Society of Addiction Medicine will tell you there's no cure. But we can get a daily reprieve based on what we're willing to do. So, okay. Out of the Doghouse course really want to attend, but it's on Mondays. Oh, this is a great question. Will it, or does it ever take place on another day? Currently in Porn Addiction 101. So talk a little bit about
yeah.
the work groups and how you schedule them.
Yeah, we tend to mix up the scheduling of days, because some people can't do Monday, but they can do Tuesday or something. So I'm actually going to sit down with Jason here in the next week or two, and we'll plan the next one, and it will likely not be on a Monday. So don't worry.
Yeah.
We start a new one every month with that, or every 6 weeks or so.
Yeah.
So you'll have
Yeah. So just
notification.
watch the schedule. And you can email Scott at Seeking
Yeah,
Integrity if you want
yeah.
to check in about that. Okay. I just found out my spouse watches porn almost every week, which came out as a surprise to me. It didn't bother me as much because I thought I do that. We
All guys
haven't
are.
had a physical intimacy issues in our marriage, but maybe usual stress at work and a newborn. Is it always that guys have physical intimacy issues like porn-induced erectile dysfunction if they watch porn? Is porn still an issue if there's no intimacy concerns?
Okay.
I'm going to point them
Porn,
back to the two
yeah,
porn webinars you did too.
yeah.
I'm going to find that.
Yeah, porn-induced erectile dysfunction. This is a very common consequence of porn addiction. If he's watching porn once a week for 15 minutes, he's probably not a porn addict. It's probably not affecting his sexual performance. Um, you know, but what we say with alcohol is not how much you drink or what you drink, it's what happens to your life when you drink. So I don't know. So your last question here is porn still an issue if there are no intimacy concerns? Well, I mean, does it violate your relationship boundaries? Does it upset you? If it doesn't bother you that he's watching porn and he's not keeping it a secret, it's not an issue. If it's not impact, we diagnose addictions, it's obsessive. I've tried and failed to quit, loss of control, or I say I'm going to go online for 5 minutes and 5 hours later, I'm still online. That's a loss of control. And then consequences. Um, if he's watching porn once a week for 20 minutes or something, it doesn't sound obsessive to me. But, has he tried and failed to quit? Can he get online for 5 minutes and then he's off? And is it creating consequences? Um, you know, I'm an alcoholic, but I don't tell people there are people in the world who have a glass of wine with dinner once a week. Okay. I don't operate that way. There's nothing inherently wrong with alcohol. The way I drink alcohol, there's a problem. Um, I don't place any value judgments on pornography. Some people do. I do not. And at Seeking Integrity, we do not. We're sex positive. If it's working for you and it's consensual, great. So if you want to place a value judgment on it, fine. But we don't. We deal with addiction. Um, if it's an addiction, call us. We're here. Um, but if it's not causing problems for you or for him or your relationship, eh. But if it is, then you need to have a conversation. And whether it's an addiction or not, if it bothers you that he's looking at porn, the two of you need to have a conversation and set some boundaries. Tammy, thoughts?
Yeah, I just had the thought of there's a real quick little self-assessment on our homepage.
Oh yeah,
Um, and that might be useful, but yeah, like Scott said, it really is what is it doing? The thing I just found out, so there's probably the perception of, there were secrets. Well, there wasn't perception. There was something that you didn't know, so if you're able to have honest conversations and you're able to discuss this and your spouse is saying, hey, I'm going to go, watch porn for 15 minutes and you're good with that, all good, like Scott said, it's really about what's it doing, what's it taking away, from your life. Is he not taking care of your newborn because he's out watching porn? That's a whole different conversation.
right.
Is he not able to show up for you because he's watching porn? So those are the aspects. But it's a problem if it's a problem within the relationship. If something is there, if there's negative consequences to a behavior, that's when we're looking at it. So if you because you said I'm mostly okay with it. Okay, well, great. But I think it's one of those things to watch and and see and kind of monitor how you're feeling about it.
Yeah.
And if there are times when he's not showing up for you, and your newborn, that would be different. So, but I did put, so January and February, Scott did a great series this year on porn addiction, kind of porn addiction 101. So it was a two-parter. You can find that in our previously recorded webinars, along with, I don't even know, 500 to 1,000 hours of content. We've got so much in there. So, we want to be a place of good resources. There's a lot of garbage out there, and we want to make sure that we're providing resources that are useful and healing and helpful, not just, anecdotal about things as well. So, okay, great job. Thanks so much, everyone, for the questions. We really appreciate it. Scott, thank you as always. Your month next month. So, all right. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.